So moving houses is no joke. I've been moving for the past 2 days and it was a bit hectic, and I really wanted to create a walkthrough video of how I did the film to the Mountain of God, and this is that video. But I also moved houses, so now the office scene is going to change. I'll show you actually where I want to put my office. It's in the outside area. Let me show you real quickly. Alright, so a little bit of sun. The place where I actually want to create my office, and this area is potentially going to be the next place where I'm going to be creating videos for you guys. Let me increase the exposure there. Great roofing. My view is going to be lovely. It's just the laundry. But it's a cool space, quiet enough space, and this is potentially going to be the new studio. I have to do some soundproofing here. I have to add some shelving for the gear, and I'll bring you guys along for that journey. For now, let's jump into the dining room table so that I can give you a walkthrough of how I created the film you guys recently watched, and thank you for checking it out. So I wanted to share with you a bit of an overview of how I created that video. I always check these videos out. It helps me out in my creative expression when I'm creating my content, because I figure how to make certain things out by looking at what other people are creating. So over here, first of all, the software I used to create the video was Final Cut Pro, and I want to show you the timeline that I had on here. The timeline looked something like this. So we had all the different footage on here, from the drone to the footage shot on camera, handheld. Because I was on the go the whole time, I couldn't really have a gimbal to record some of the shots that I wanted maybe to have smooth shots. I couldn't. I just wanted to capture different moments. So these were all the different shots that I captured. In terms of sound design, I used Epidemic Sound. I am an ambassador for Epidemic Sound, but I've been using them even before I became an ambassador. And I used about, I think 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 tracks from Epidemic Sound. And these allowed me to also create a transition for some of the scenes that I was creating for the film that you see. Okay, so actually how I started the video, I actually started out the video by creating favorites. So if I go into my footage list over here and I check out the camera shots and I click favorites over here, you'll see all the different clips that I liked from what I captured. And I selected all those different clips, which made it to the footage, the film that I created. And then after selecting is when I started to piece everything together. So I started to piece things together, then I went to Epidemic Sound to find an actual track, and I found this awesome track by Silver Maple called Beyond the Badlands. So that's how I started the footage, and actually started the film. I don't know why I'm saying footage. I started out that way because I just wanted it to be a little bit slow to kind of bring you in. And I started the footage actually with the ending. So the scenes that you're seeing over here, ABD on the ground, and he's smiling. This is the morning after we arrived. We'd already slept at Lake Natron, and we were tired, but we were happy that we had finally made it to this amazing location. And this was the first scene because we were actually going to drive to a viewpoint to capture some additional shots, hoping to get the sunrise. But unfortunately, it was a cloudy day, so we were not able to get the sunrise, but we just worked with it. But this was so it started with the last day. And then after that, so I was piecing together, and this was the time where I was actually able to take out my camera because the whole time it was really dusty. So I started to record bits and pieces, and I wanted to kind of create a story of these bikers, putting on their helmet, and then they're about to go into an adventure. not knowing that this is, for the audience, not knowing that this is actually the end. Then after that, did an opener to kind of reveal where these bikers were at, you know, to just kind of to present context for the scene. So you see these little close-up shots, and then after that you see this epic shot of the view of you know, the mountain of God, the intro, and you see the bike going down, and it kind of gives you an idea of what's going to be happening. So after that, then I start off with a bit of a title, Every Adventure Begins, because at the end, it ends with a finishing to that statement. And from there, like, I actually used an iPhone to record this part, which was the beginning of when we were about to leave with the bikes, just to give context about what was going to happen. Then after that, I jumped onto actually the scenes of the beginning of the journey, going to the hot springs. And what basically I did here was I was speaking, and just to provide a bit of context and to feed the visual appetite for the viewer watching, I put B-rolls from the different scenes and some views. And when I was speaking about ABD, I introduced them so that you're able to see him, and just to provide additional, I guess, references for the viewer to understand what I'm talking about. If I just spoke, I feel like it would have lost the interest for the viewer. So B-roll is essential for any time when you're creating like these shots. Record as much as you can so that you have enough footage to play with. After that, I used a drone and also some handheld shots to capture some shots at the hot springs. And this was more to just show the space itself, to show how it looks, the location. And then from there also, I actually got one of the people who swim avidly at the hot springs to jump into the water with a GoPro attached to his head. And he was able to capture some additional shots for me, just to create a different perspective of how it actually is inside the water. Additionally, I recorded him doing some, you know, swings, because he does some amazing, you know, swinging action shots, and it was quite impressive, and used that for transition. So in this area over here, when he came back and he was swinging back, and just the moment he passed through, I transitioned it to the next scene to just continue the story. And as I transitioned to the next scene, I actually reduced the sound from the previous soundtrack, which had changed to Jacob, Breath One's Last, and then I transitioned to Daydream by the Day, Dagdron, excuse me with the names that I'm trying to say here. But so I reduced the track that was ending for this sequence, and then I started a new track. And the reason why I was doing this was so that I could keep the audience engaged, as if every single time we went to a different scene, the scene had its own musical anthem. And that's how, you know, music is so important when I'm creating these videos. So this track kind of brings it into that scene where we're going to West Kilimanjaro, where I'm going to start taking photographs of the bikers. And after that, it's like a night scene. We end it off, and I'm going to sleep. As you can see, I'm also transitioning the sounds. Over here, you can see that this soundtrack now, by Daydream, it starts to end, and then the new soundtrack starts to come. And this is kind of like in the middle of this film. And what I wanted to do was to start kind of creating an anthem, and to kind of make it seem as this safari was just, you know, one for the books, and, you know, showing these epic moments that we were seeing as we're going to Lake Natron to see Odonyo Lengai, which is the mountain of God. And I, you know, put this amazing track by Hampus, and it's called The Final Cut, you know, really upbeat track. And that was how to kind of create that adventure feeling, safari feeling. Additionally, what I did is I put a lot of emphasis on sound design. As you can see, all these different pieces over here are the sound designs that I use. And I'll play them for you so you can actually hear how it sounds without the actual soundtrack.
All right, so the other soundtrack that you're hearing of me speaking was actually coming right from the camera that I was using. So it was the inbuilt microphone that was taking some of the audio, so you could hear me telling the bikers in Swahili, leta mambo, which means like bring it on. And you don't really hear it when I put the actual soundtrack, but you can actually just hear the sound of the bike. So I just wanted to bring it to life with the sound design. So when you could see the, basically the tornadoes, but they're called something else, they actually don't make any sound at all. They're so silent because it's really fine sand, but I added a bit of thunder and rumble and also a bit of wind noises for you to hear that feeling as if that's how it sounded. Because that was actually a drone shot, and drones don't take any audio, so I had to add that just to build a bit of texture in the footage. Afterwards, it was just drone shots and additional shots that I captured with my camera until the end. And again, I used sound as a way to transition between spaces. If you can see over here, as I was transitioning from the final ending scene here to the next scene, I changed to a different soundtrack. Okay, so here what I did is that I had two soundtracks. One was doing the drums, and then another one I actually used was a video recording that I'd done before on a different shoot of Maasais when they're making their sounds. So I took that sound and I used that in the footage, just a sound bite, to build more texture, as I said, in this scene, because I wanted to make it, feel really sacred. We're in this amazing location, and I used that sound bite because the Maasai who was singing had this amazing voice. So I used that part. So that's the fun part about, having hard drives and then storing all those files, because you never know when you're going to use them again. So we move on, and then the next part is actually I used footage as a way to transition between scenes, especially from this area over here. So I used the transitional part of the bike, and then I transitioned it with another bike shot, like a tight shot, wide shot, then the entire scene to transition from one moment to another moment. And I used actually an actual sound track to have a transition mood, which is this In Solitude by Christoph. And it was just these sounds, right? And then I transition again with the bike to the build-up of the next track. And that leads on to the end of the film. In terms of what I used to grade the footage, the entire film was graded using Film Convert. And that has allowed me to, really get some amazing colors. And that's what I used for the entire edit. I'll show you before and after. So this is before, and then this is after. So this Film Convert is really great because you're able to get all these film stocks, and you can play around with them to get a different tone. And they're very subtle, so I really enjoyed actually using these. And that is basically the overview of how I created this soundtrack. If you're hearing background noise, I'm sorry, I'm close to a place whereby they're building. But this is, this is it in terms of what I did to shoot and create this video, and the overview of the timeline for how the film looked in the editing part. If you have any questions that you want me to answer, you can share them with me and I'll answer them down below. So you can just leave a comment and I'll answer that. And I think that's about it for this first walkthrough. I'll definitely do some in-depth color grading videos so you can understand my process when it comes to color grading, and maybe some editing videos in the future. I hope you enjoyed the film. Thank you for checking it out. It was my first time, piecing together something like that. So I'm glad that the response and the feedback was great. And I'm excited to share some new films with you guys in the future. Thank you for tuning in. I'll catch you guys on another one. Remember to stay safe and stay creative. Peace out.